The belief that we are living in an orderly universe, that nothing happened to this Earth and the other planets since the beginning, that nothing will happen till the end, is a wishful thinking that fills the textbooks, and your textbooks are still of Victorian vintage.
But what is this condition?
The condition is the extreme professionalization and rigidification of institutions through which thought is supposed to occur. Extreme to the point where it begins to contaminate the fluidity and looseness, the freedom to think. Fluidity and looseness of ideas, of having ideas, and the freedom to think. And Velikovsky really wasn't taken on by the establishment simply because of what he was saying. He was also taken on by the establishment, in my opinion, because of his audacity in having such thoughts.
In the case of the Ganymede hypothesis, our sun is postulated to have started life as a protostar, or proto-sun, at the center of its own Herbig-Haro object. Strung out along the powerful Birkeland current that formed our protosun were a range of planets and brown dwarf stars. The planets Jupiter and Mercury, including Jupiter's moons, formed in the plasma beads of the protosun's northern jet, while the planets Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Mars and Earth formed in the plasma beads of the protosun's southern jet. It is most likely that at this time both the planets Jupiter and Saturn originally formed as brown dwarf stars, complete with their own collection of moons and planets. At some point, the protosun's powerful Birkeland current failed and the protosun was electrically severed from its future planets. Continuing along its northern course, the protosun eventually captured and collected the planet Mercury, and then the brown dwarf Jupiter along with Jupiter's 4 moons. This became the basis of the antique solar system as discussed by the authors of Cosmos and Collision, in which Jupiter's moons may have once been liquid water worlds highly conducive to life as we know it. At a much later date, the gas giant planet now known as Uranus caught up to the protosun's antique solar system and was catastrophically captured by the Sun, the result being Uranus knocked on its side and left in the bizarre orientation we see it in today. At an even much later date, the brown dwarf Saturn, along with the planets Neptune to its north and Mars and Earth to its south, caught up to the Sun, and via a series of catastrophic encounters was also eventually captured. This highly destructive epoch in our solar system's history saw a catastrophic rearrangement of all planets involved in this process as they electrically discharged and equalized with the Sun, and even saw the birth of a new planet that would later be called Venus, as the brown dwarf Saturn fissioned spectacularly and ejected a piece of its core under intense electrical stress from the Sun's much more powerful electrical field. These catastrophic events are the origins of world mythology, witnessed by humanity and recorded for posterity. Over time, both Jupiter and Saturn were reduced to gas giant status and pushed to the outer realms of the Sun's new solar system, while the terrestrial planets collected at much closer orbits, with the Earth finding itself fortuitously placed in the Sun's habitable zone, where it is today.
When ancient man looked out at the night sky, is this essentially what he saw? Is it possible that just a few thousand years ago, the sky was filled with forms that towered over ancient man?
Saturn's golden age was interrupted by catastrophe when the enclosure of the gods was sealed shut. the descent of the hero in his dark aspect brought overwhelming clouds and darkness. This was the underworld journey, the archetypal ordeal of the hero, and for the earth, a deluge of fire and water. Then Mars rose out of the waters of the deep to produce the world mountain. The opened eye of Venus formed the rim of the great world wheel, the fiery body of the encircling serpent. Watered by the four rivers, this was the land of the gods, resting on the summit of the world mountain, a bright crescent forming the horned peak. The mountain of Mars became the mooring post of the turning sky. The column of wind or water rising along the world axis. The pillar of the cosmos, with its four extensions holding aloft the world wheel. But the ancient paradise did not last. The hero spirited away the goddess, or stole the heart of the universal monarch who tumbled from the summit of heaven. The Golden Age gave way to the cosmic night, when the hordes of chaos were set loose and the doomsday dragon moved about in the sky, a monster created by the twisting forms of Venus and Mars. It was then that the terrible goddess appeared with wildly disheveled hair, lamenting the death of the universal monarch. In the events that follow, the hero will subdue the dragon or pacify the raging goddess. The universal monarch's own son, Jupiter, will be installed in the center of the sky. But the universal monarch has departed, and with his death comes the end of the Golden Age.
All that remain are fragments of a collective memory, and hidden deep in the human psyche, a sense of something irrevocably lost, and yet eternally yearned for. A paradise when heaven and earth were one. The death of this paradise was the birth of myth.
Dr. Velikovsky, what do you think is the effect of this collective amnesia in the future?
The effect is very great, not only in the future, it was also in the past. Because as long as a man doesn't remember his past, he acts as a neurotic, a person who suffered a traumatic experience. Due to this traumatic experience, suffered also an amnesia, a local amnesia, so to say, not spread through all his personality. But in this case, in the human race, we have something that is comparable with a single personality that suffered a trauma.
You undertake to psychoanalyze mankind as a whole.
You realize that it's not easy to put the entire mankind on the couch, but all what I can do is publish the psychological aspect of these events of which I spoke from biological and paleontological side, in earth and upheaval, from folkloristic side in worlds and collision, from archaeological side in ages and chaos.
Are there any rituals that we are practicing now which would seem to indicate a repetition of this trauma?
Not only any ritual, almost all rituals in religions, in various religions, all our observation in some way go back to the astral religion, to the beginnings that are rooted in the catastrophic events of the past.
And I think there's one question that runs through the mind, if not obsesses the minds of your readers, and that is, when can we expect the next catastrophe? And what I'd like to ask you is, how does the sky look to you?
I was asked this question almost at the end of every lecture. We are now living in a solar system in which, between the planetary bodies, the astral guards of all ancient religions, there exists now there a peaceful a harmony, peaceful coexistence. But it is the man himself, human mind, that is not released from the bonds of the past. He lives in a world that he created himself, in his arrogance, in his violence, in his misunderstanding of what happened in the past, so he is irrational.
Conventional Orthodox view.
Yes.
I see it's not embarrassing to your point of view.
No,
But,
not at all. Not
you
at
are
all.
more comfortable with
Not,
it.
not at all. I would say that the Marine probe surpassed all my wildest dreams. It found first, I would say, confirmed the find made before that by Pioneer 5, that the space, interplanetary space, is magnetic. Well, I was a target of much ridicule exactly because of this, that I invented forces that do not exist in the solar system, because I needed them to explain all these unusual events that took place in the sky, events that the Greek called theomachy, the battle of the gods.
If I transgressed and went into many fields of science and humanities, it was not because I was born a rebel. I was coerced to trespass.